Wakey, wakey. Hello. There you are. What's up? How
Hello,
was your
teacher.
Monday?
Monday?
Yeah,
Pretty good.
pretty good.
Yes.
And the weekend?
Mm, it was excellent for us because we did some work in
Mhm.
the garden of
Oh,
the new house.
cool.
So,
Yeah, fixing and getting it ready.
mhm.
Cool. Okay. That's very, very nice. And where is your new house far?
um, is in the Ajusco,
Mhm.
um, in Lomas de Tepemecaca.
I have no idea what is that.
No.
You have no, but it sounds like with in the area where there's so many trees and
Yes.
some
Had you ever been in the Ajusco?
no, and that's something I have been very late. I really need to go.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Wow, man, I really want to check it out. Mhm. It's like a nice forest, no, to go walk, to go hike.
And gotcha
Ooh,
riding on the
raining.
horse? No,
You say horse riding.
horse riding.
Wow,
Um, delicious food.
delicious.
Delicious. Yes.
I need to I need to take a little trip. Definitely. Very nice. Very, very good. What about the rest? Where are you? Who are you there, Carla and Brian? Can you hear me?
Yes, teacher, I hear you.
Awesome. Very good. How was your weekend and your Monday?
Monday was very tired because I had been with a lot of work.
Watch out, it was
But
tiring, not tired.
tiring,
ING.
tiring. Um, and my weekend was uh, good because I did some activities with my family and yesterday I rest in the afternoon.
Nice. That sounds like a relaxing weekend, like doing something for yourself,
Yes.
right? So good. So good, girl. Very nice. And what about Brian?
Hello,
Hello.
how are you?
No, how are you? I'm asking you.
Okay, I'm okay.
Pretty as usual, right?
Yes.
Sounds good.
As
Okay.
every day.
Exactly. Exactly. It's as usual as your normal day. That's all good. That's perfect. Okay. I'm gonna give you some extra exercises if you want to practice last week's. If we want to check a little bit more passive voice, and if you want to practice a little bit more of what you did last week, then you can practice using the following exercises. You have this one over here. You can form passive sentences using the words that you have in a list. I'm going to send it to you via WhatsApp for you to practice if you want to, of course. I suggest that you do it, no? So if you, oops, where is it? 9 o'clock here. For more passive practice, here you have some more information. And also, I'm going to give you one extra link of an exercise that I really, really like. Oh, wait. No, this is different. Passive voice. I lost the other link. Anyway, you have this one, right? And let me find another one because I have no idea what happened to the other one. Because we are going to talk about passive voice again, but now we are going to, this week, we are going to see a little difference on what happens in language, a very common situation that happens in language that I want to practice with you, okay? Meanwhile, that happens, we are going to go through the new topic. The new topics week, no, what? The new week's topic will be talking about companies. And we are going to have some financial vocabulary, some business vocabulary, some executive vocabulary that probably can help you reach information that you want to talk about. This is the vocabulary. So you can study it and start checking for the rest of the week. In order to get you some context, let's talk about the difference between some companies. Are you an Apple fan or an Android fan? And why? Anyone? Apple or Android? And why?
For me,
Mhm.
Android fits
Mhm.
better.
Android. Interesting.
Yes.
I thought you were an Apple girl.
No, not really.
Not really.
Not
Not really.
not really.
Why?
Mm, I really disgust no disgust no. Oh,
It's like
I really dislike that part of the Apple when the cable mm, you can only use the cable of Apple and
yes.
all the peripherals equipment.
You can say no because periféricos is in Spanish, periféricos.
Yes.
You can call them you can call them
Accessories? No.
accessories is one word, but there is another gadgets. I think the word gadgets is also a word. What did you say, Brian? Can you repeat? Microphone products.
Gadgets.
You see, very good idea.
Uh,
Gadget.
that yes, that part that you can only use the gadget of
Yes.
the same brand, and I think that it's very expensive. Now there are new brands. Ah, mm,
at least for me, like Xiaomi, Oppo, that offers quality. Is it's more cheaper. And
It's cheaper. Eliminate more. That's redundant.
oh, sorry, it's cheaper.
Mhm.
And also, it's annoying for me that part where people try to show some status. No,
Mhm.
some level of I don't know how to say.
Status is a word. You can
Yes.
talk about social status. Yes.
Yes, that there are many memes where said that maybe you don't have the money, but you buy, but yes, buy iPhone that you pay in 3 4 years only for show people that you can or you have the brand, and it's all the picture.
That's a direct opinion to Apple consumers. You know, that's gonna create some debates in this moment. I used to agree with you. I remember that yeah, Android was offering a lot and the same or better products for cheaper prices, and it was a strong decision to make the change, and yeah, that's a difficult decision to make because all your important information is in one company. So if you want to do the switch to a different company, you need to transfer all your info too. So it's a very massive issue. But we have a pro Android over here. What do you agree with LC or do you disagree with LC? Let's go with Brian. Do you have an Android or an iPhone?
Android forever.
Android forever. Good job. Why?
All that things that Elsie said.
All
Yeah,
those
it's cheaper,
things.
it's better, fits all the necessities,
Yes.
capacity, battery duration, all that problems that you can
All
find in your
those problems.
all those problems.
Those problems. No, that.
Yeah. And I don't know, Apple is mm, worst.
Yes, exactly.
Just that.
Not even for the emojis. You don't like the emojis of your face?
It's irrelevant for me.
Come on, man. Okay, okay. Carla, do you have an Android or an iPhone?
I have Android also.
Okay.
Yes, I like. I don't like really the iPhone. I think
You don't
I
like what?
consider
Can you
it's a
repeat?
good. I don't like an iPhone. I consider the Apple is a good brand. However, I think during all time the company or the focus in this company is only with a other level economic level,
Yes.
because the cost for the price of the cell phones are very expensive, but I think in the last years, the other companies like Samsung, for example, I like a lot Samsung, satisfy other necessities of the customers, not only the communication that is the main necessity, also to have a work tool like different cell phones that this company offer, and maybe
Offers.
to
It's a company.
offers And maybe the camera is the first company that increased the pixels. It's okay.
That
I am
what?
not sure, maybe pixel in the camera or the I am
Well,
not
in
sure.
English it's called pixels too,
Pixels.
but
Okay.
with you wait, because you said is the first company that, and then
That
I'm expecting a
increase
verb.
the pixel
That
or
increase the
pixel in the
pixels.
yes, or offer not only a cell phone to communicate. It was a cell phone that you have do a different activities, no? I think, and the Apple increase also this offer with the customers, no? I think, but I
After.
consider it after. Yes, 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 yes. But I consider have advantage and disadvantage
It
for
has,
specific
watch out,
brands.
your verbs in
Okay,
present.
okay. Yeah,
It
a
has.
different advantage or disadvantage for each one, no? I think. For example, Apple, I think the secure of the cell phones or
The security. Secure is a
security.
description.
Okay. The
Mhm.
security of the cell phone, I think is better than the Samsung, for example, no? But it's the different
Yes.
profiles of the customers, no? I think.
That's a very good opinion. That's a very good opinion. Like, of course, you're preferring Android, but you understand that there are some positive aspects on the other side.
Yes,
So you sound like a Samsung girl. You have a Samsung phone.
yes, yes, I have Samsung.
Okay. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Okay. The reason we are talking about this is because we are going to watch a video about how we think about these companies as competitors, but really they are very good friends. You see that many of the manufacturers for the iPhone are actually Samsung manufacturers. So we can have a cell phone from another company with the technology of Samsung. These days, we have seen many foldable cell phones, and all the foldable cell phones are manufactured by Samsung. So really, there is a very interesting relation and connection between these companies when we usually see them as competitions. That's why it's very interesting to see preferences and likes and dislikes on the final product, when at the end the back end, the back stage of these products is basically the same, which is very interesting in a business perspective. This is what we are going to talk about, business, and we are going to talk about different applications of products, manufacturing, deals, contracts, etc. You know, and this is what the video talks about. So before we continue talking about this, because I want to know Mitch's and Jimé's opinion, and Jesse, we are going to talk about, well, let's watch the video together without the vocabulary. Okay? So we can study it for the next classes. Look at this.
You've probably asked the question before: iPhone or Android? Apple Maps or Google Maps? Safari or Chrome? On the surface, Apple and Google represent the ultimate tech rivalry. But behind the scenes, executives have maintained a multi-billion-dollar partnership that benefits them both massively.
I would describe Apple and Google as the classic example of frenemies. On one hand, they're fierce rivals. On the other hand, they benefit greatly from figuring out ways to work together.
Google pays Apple an estimated $8 to $12 billion a year, or a third of Alphabet's annual profits, to make sure it's the default search engine on more than 1 billion Apple devices. That deal has helped Google dominate the search market. In recent years, it's accounted for 90 to 95% of search engine queries in the US. The deal between the two tech giants is so powerful that it's at the center of one of the biggest US government lawsuits against a public company since the 90s. So, how did two of Silicon Valley's biggest rivals come to form one of tech's most valuable partnerships? To understand Apple and Google's frenemy relationship, you have to go back to the beginning.
In the early days, they were quite close. At the time, the CEO of Google was on Apple's board. It was part of the Silicon Valley club, if you will.
In 2005, the two companies laid the groundwork for what would become one of the industry's biggest deals. Google struck a deal with Apple to become the default search engine for Safari on Mac computers.
As Apple evolved, so did the relationship. In 2007, when the iPhone came out, Google was then the default search for the iPhone Safari browser, and it's really just grown and grown from that point.
So Steve, I've had the privilege of joining the board, and there's a lot of relationships between the boards. And I thought, if we just sort of merge the companies, we could call them Apple Goo.
As it became clear that Google was going to be more than just a search engine and that it wanted to grow, and that Apple was going to be a rival, that became an issue.
In 2008, Google directly challenged Apple's business with the launch of its Android operating system. The next year, Google's CEO Eric Schmidt resigned from Apple's board. Since then, both companies have expanded into each other's businesses, with Google launching Android phones and Apple launching services like the App Store and Siri, which was originally powered by Microsoft's Bing, not Google.
Search Wikipedia for Neil Armstrong.
Searching for Neil Armstrong.
It wasn't until 2017 that Apple switched from Bing to Google for its search results on Siri and Spotlight, the Mac's search function. That renewed deal between Apple and Google came at a good time for both companies. Google was facing competition from Facebook's fast-growing mobile ad revenue, and its new deal with Apple put its search results and ads on more than 1 billion Apple devices. Now, up to half of Google's searches come from Apple devices.
When you open up your iPhone and go to Safari and write something that you want to search for, boom, you're going to Google. And that's a lot of value.
For Apple, the deal has benefited its business twofold. First, it got more consistent search results across Safari, Siri, and Spotlight. But perhaps more importantly, the money it gets from Google's ad revenue makes up 15 to 20% of Apple's annual profits. That's helped fund Apple's ambitions to grow its services unit, which has driven growth for the company over the past few years.
Apple is like a store. It's selling its shelf space, the primo shelf space. And so when you go into a store and you see those candy bars right there at the register, that's the place to be if you're selling candy bars. And so for Google, they're in that default spot.
Now, all of that money and search traffic could be at risk because of this lawsuit. In October, the US Department of Justice sued Google over antitrust concerns. The government is alleging that Google is a monopoly gatekeeper for the internet, and it says that harms customers, advertisers, and competing tech companies. One way the Justice Department says Google maintains its dominance is through exclusive business deals, like through its partnership with Apple. According to the lawsuit, some people at Google called the prospect of losing its default status on Apple devices code red. Google representatives said they weren't aware of the code red language used in the lawsuit, and neither Apple or Google have officially disclosed the exact value of the deal, or commented on the Justice Department's $8 to $12 billion projection. In a recent interview, the journal's personal tech columnist Joanna Stern asked Google's former CEO about the deal.
There was ultimately a deal that I did not personally negotiate, but it was a lucrative deal for Apple. But important to say that with respect to Google, and with respect to use of Google search on Apple phones, it is extremely easy to switch to another provider.
Google has denied the Justice Department's allegations and said it plans to challenge the lawsuit. its chief legal officer, said the lawsuit wouldn't help consumers and that its relationship with Apple is customary. Apple hasn't officially commented on the lawsuit. So, what happens if the Justice Department is successful in its case?
This could drag out for many years. This is an interesting situation. In some ways, if the DOJ is successful, one of the companies that might be harmed the most here is Apple, given the fact that they perhaps have 15 or 20% of their profit coming from this relationship.
Of course, there are other search engines out there, like Bing, DuckDuckGo, Baidu, and Yandex, but none of them even come close to Google's dominance. Some financial analysts say that if anyone can give Google a run for its money, it's Apple. And the antitrust lawsuit might just be the push Apple needs to divorce itself from Google.
We don't know exactly where Apple is going with its future plans here. Some have speculated that potentially this would be a good reason for Apple to develop its own search engine. Others have said potentially they might buy a search engine to beef up that capability. One of the things we know about Apple over the years is that it likes to own its core competencies so it can control those worlds. And so, that's always kind of hanging in the background.
Apple hasn't responded to requests for comment on plans to create or purchase its own search engine. Still, a breakup of this multi-billion-dollar partnership between Apple and Google could deal a financial blow to two of the world's biggest companies. And however this relationship plays out in the future has the potential to shape the way billions of people use the internet.
As we see Congress and regulators debate the power of tech, this lawsuit is just yet another example of kind of that public debate about their role in our future and in our society.
There. It's a complex video. It's really, really interesting. There's a lot of information going on, but there is one specific topic in the video. I want to check if you got it. Mitch, what did you understand on the video? What was the video about?
I understand that Google and Apple start to having trouble because Google can prove the security by its users.
Okay, wait. Let's say that again, but let's reformulate some words because you use some cognates that are not the same in English.
Okay.
A cognate is a word that sounds similar to Spanish, so you are using a lot of them, and some of them were weird. Say that again. What happened to Google and Apple?
Both companies start to fight about
Start in past.
What, sir?
What is the past of start?
Started.
Started. Continue.
To fight about the security of the users by Google on iPhone. So there was a lawsuit to from Apple to Google.
Well, kind of okay.
To Google has to prove that they have the information on their customers. I don't know how to say it.
Safe.
Safe, yes.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay. So you understood something about the security of information.
Yes.
There is some information is right. I am very, very happy that you understood the word lawsuit. This is not an easy word, you know, but
Yes.
the lawsuit was not about security. There is something else that is happening. Okay. Anyway,
Okay.
you know that there is a problem with these two companies. That's something that you need to practice during the week. Study your vocabulary, check the video. You have to see what was the lawsuit about.
Okay.
Okay. Can you describe, like, do you guys know what is lawsuit? Apart from each, of course.
No, I don't know.
Demanda.
In English. How do you say that in English, you mean?
Lawsuit.
But what is a lawsuit? How would you define a lawsuit?
A legal action?
A
A legal
problem.
action,
A legal problem.
a legal
A legal
problem,
issue.
a legal issue, you see, exactly.
A legal requirement for something that is wrong.
Very nice, very nice. You see, don't use Spanish, Jimmy. Don't use Spanish. Use your English words. Good job, because you can, right? You say a legal requirement of something from one company to another, right? And in some cases, in the case of this video, is the government. The government will set a lawsuit on the company, which is very, very interesting. Sometimes these companies are so important that the government needs to say, hey, hold on your horses. Chill out, my friend. You're going too fast. So that's what you are going to study, you know, what happens on the lawsuit. So good definition of lawsuit. Good answer, Mitch. Let's go now with Jesse. Tell me, what else did you understand? Did you catch any other information?
Teacher, do you listen?
Hello, yes, I can. I can hear
Okay.
you and I can see you.
So my connection is really bad, and during the video, it's good.
Oh, that's so bad.
It's good. But I understood that that the iPhone change I don't know how to say change the I don't know change the principal how do you say buscador.
Okay, that's a new word. That's definitely a
Yeah.
new. How do you say buscador? That's a search engine. Everybody take a note.
Search engine.
A search engine is a program that searches information. So something happens, right, Jesse?
Yes, Apple changed the search engines because
Pronunciation.
before the search engine.
Exactly.
Yes, search engine. Okay, Apple changed the search engine.
Right.
Because before they used the search engine of Google.
Mm-hmm.
And I understood that okay, this I don't know how to say
This info.
maybe decrease decrease the powerful of Google.
Okay, yes, good. Taking Google, taking Google as the main search engine decreases the power of the other because they are technically competitors. No? So that is a problem. That is definitely a problem for who? For Google or for Apple?
I think for Google.
Okay, then we need to listen the second part of the video again, because
Okay.
imagine if all the people have an iPhone and the first website that the iPhone takes me to is Google, then this is super nice for Google. This is super beneficial. You know, you open a MacBook, you enter Safari, and what do you get first? Google.
Google.
So that is super beneficial for the company. That's why Apple is not so happy. The problem is that there's no other search engine.
Okay. I get.
So everything was perfect. You got everything right. That is the other switch to understand by context that it was bad for Apple. Definitely.
Yeah.
Good job, Yesenia. Very, very nice. So for you, I want you to study your video and check what was the search engine when or before the partnership of Google and Apple. There was another search engine that Apple used before. Check it.
Before that, Google.
Before Google. That
Okay.
is expressed in the video. Okay.
Okay.
Check it for homework. Very good, guys. Anyway, this is the video that we are going to study, and the vocabulary is now on your WhatsApp. So what you need to do is to continue checking your vocabulary and expressing it, expanding your. I'm gonna send you the link to the video. Expanding your glossary. Yes, your glossary, because I need you to study these words and start mastering new vocabulary in your mind. So let me check during the week whenever you update your glossaries so I can give you feedback on it. Friday, we are going to have our listening practice. Now, in order to finish today's class, we are going to talk about a little bit of passive voice, what that was last week, but now with a little change, right? Last week, we saw that the most important part of passive voice, the part that tells you the time, is what? What is the part in passive voice that determines the time? Who remembers this?
Verb to be.
The verb be. The interesting thing that I need you to study these days is that the verb be is usually omitted. Look at this website, this news, and you will see that you have the verb in past participle, but you don't have the verb be. In this example, you have war declared by Germany, when the real thing would be war was declared by Germany. This is a newspaper that occurred in the first, in the World War I. Now, on the other side, we have the New York American newspaper, and it says, all Titanic saved on Carpathia. We are talking about when the Titanic sank. And here you have another example, no hope left. The complete sentence would be, no hope was left. So, as you can see, the passive voice is omitting the verb be when it's in past. Why? This happens because a participle, a verb participle, is a description by itself. I don't need a verb to use a description. It's not necessary to use a verb to use a description, especially when you are talking about passive voice. So this gives us the flexibility to use all the verbs apart from verb to be. And one of the topics that we are going to study during the week is that we can say passive voice without the verb be. Technically, you can use the past participle of the verbs as a description, but with other verbs, including the word become, look, see, seem, get, etc. You can transform passive voice, and you can use passive voice with these other verbs. These verbs will substitute and replace the verb be. And here you have words like get, feel, appear, seem, stay, fall, go, taste, grow, look, become, turn, act, keep, and smell. During the week, we need to understand what they are and how they do. Now, I want you to be very, very careful with these verbs because some of them look very, very easy, like the verb go. But we are going to see that we are not going to see the standard definition of go. We're going to use another very different definition in order to make it passive. Okay? Let's use the example of the standard one. The most common is the verb get. Okay? In the first definition of the verb get, it says there is no passive and it needs an object. So when you say, I got a call from Dave this morning, this is a synonym of I received a call from Dave this morning. Okay? What happens with get in other definitions? We are going to go through the definitions of the verb get, and we are going to find the one that has the following label: linking verb. Let's find the definition that says linking verb. When the verb get has this label, it means that you can collocate an adjective after, like get angry, get bored, get hungry, or get fat. This is not similar to obtain. This is similar to become. So take a note about this. There are verbs and synonyms, but there are also other definitions of the verb with different synonyms. In this case, get is similar to become. Definition: to reach a particular state or condition. You know, first, I was not like that, and then I transformed. I reached a particular state or condition. I was not hungry before the class, but in this moment, I'm starting to think about a sandwich. I am getting hungry. I am reaching the state of hunger. You see how the verb get is used with the description hungry? When a verb, take a note. When a verb needs an adjective, it's called a linking verb. And we can use these verbs to describe. So when you think about the description, you can think about the verb be as a standard. The standard description or the standard verb for the description is the verb be. But apart from that, we have also the verb get, feel, appear, seem, etc. This particular list is a list of linking verbs. So these verbs don't take an object, they take an adjective. Let's take a note that says linking verbs are verbs that no. Ah, yes, linking verbs are verbs that describe the standard verb is be, but you can also use the rest of them. Question: has anybody in this class heard these verbs in expressions, some forms to describe? Who is familiar with this, one of these?
Get married, for example.
Get married, very good. Married is a description and it's a passive description. Good. What else? Who has another one?
Feel in love also.
Kinda, that's fall.
Fall, yes, fall in love.
Fall in love, but
it's like it's not a verb. Yes, it's a verb.
I think it's an idiomatic expression.
Yes,
I
it's
don't
not
think
like
it's
a
a
linking verb.
No, exactly. Who knows? Let me check.
Linking verb is not similar to phrasal verb, right?
Exactly.
It's no. Okay.
Different.
Yeah. Yes.
So fall in love. Also, fall in love doesn't fit the phrasal verb definition. That will be an idiomatic expression.
Yes.
So that will be different. For to belong a particular class, to happen, to move. No, the word fall in love is in a different.
Okay.
Mhm. It's an idiomatic expression because it's not here. Anyway, I think Mitch, you had another one, no?
Yes, get bored.
Get bored. Yes. When you are, yeah, I get bored when, you know? And that is a linking verb. Bored is a passive description. Very good. What about Jime? Do you have one? With seem or smell or feel?
With get?
Get, which one do you have?
No, it's a question.
With get? Well, really, it can be with get, but it can be also the rest, feel, appear. Do you know any
But just in passive voice?
Don't think about grammar. Think about descriptions. because thinking about grammar can be more difficult.
Okay. I was studying before I became sleepy, no sleep.
I became sleepy. That'll be sleepy because sleepy is a description. Yes, of course.
Sleep.
And also became is regular. You added a is irregular.
Became.
Irregular.
Became.
Exactly. One more time.
No. No sé.
So, what were you studying? What were you doing?
No, I'm here. I forget the complete sentence.
You were saying something about study.
Okay. I was studying before I went. No, became sleep or
Sleep is a
went.
verb. You need a description.
Became.
Sleep is a verb. You need a description. Sleepy, exactly.
Okay.
One more time with conviction. Let's go.
Okay. I was studying before I became sleepy.
That's it. That's it. Good job. There you have it.
Okay.
Very, very good. So I think the easy ones in this moment is, for example, get, feel, become. Some of them are pretty easy to use. And some of my intermediate students get confused with words like appear and especially words like go because they have a different application and some expressions are new. These are the expressions that you are going to study during the week. So the week's mission will be talking about linking verbs. Okay, let's give all the questions, let's open all the questions for the week. This is getting you ready for it. Meanwhile, let's finish the class, but give some seconds to Jessie because Jessie will pass attendance, okay? So action, Jess. Good night, girl.
Hello, good night, everyone.
Hi.
So I will say attendance, please. Is here Brian? Hi, Brian. Good night.
Hi.
Hi, Elsie. Good night, Brian. Hi, Elsie. Good night.
Hello.
Hi, Jessie. Hi, Jessie. Good night. Jimena.
Hi.
Hi, Jimena. Hi, Jessie. And Denise.
Hello.
Hi, Denise. Thank you. And Mish. Hi, Mish.
Hi, Jessie.
Hi, Mish. So that's all. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
For everybody who doesn't know Jessie, Jessie is my assistant. So we have some new people in the group. If you have any question and I'm not available because I am in the class or I am not answering the phone, you can go directly to her. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night, Jessie.
You're welcome.
Good.
Have
Have
a
a
good
very
night.
good night, guys. See you tomorrow.
See you. See you guys. Bye-bye.
Good
See
night,
you.
everyone.
Study vocabulary. See you. Bye.